鬼岛之音
Ghost Island Media.
I feel like a Dungeness crab is like designed by God or by nature. It's so tasty.
Meet Dennis Nieh, a Taiwanese TV and radio host and personality and entrepreneur. You know his voice. You've seen him on TV, but you probably didn't know that he loved fishing.
Though some of the kind of fishing that you did at San Jose does not resonate because I would just remember we'd go oceanside and I would fail to catch fish.
This is Kevin Kallmyer, political officer at the American Institute in Taiwan. Kevin has never been to San Jose, but he's excited to talk about Dungeness crabs and fishing. Welcome to the AIT podcast from the American Institute in Taiwan and Ghost Island Media. We're here to talk about everyone's favorite topic, food. In each episode, we'll discuss with a special guest food from an American city. Today, we head to San Jose, California.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Kallmyer. I'm a political officer at AIT, the American Institute in Taiwan, and thrilled today to talk with Dennis.
All right, cool, Kevin. Nice to meet you. Hello, everybody that's listening. Hi.
I, unfortunately, have never been to San Jose, but I absolutely adore California as both a place where my family lives and a place with beautiful nature and seafood, things that are important to me. So I was hoping that we'd be able to talk about those things today, your experience, Dennis, and maybe mine a little bit too. San Jose is maybe not known by everyone in Taiwan, but is actually a pretty important city in the United States. Not only 10th largest in the US, third largest California, but when you think about things that drive American culture, I think about tech. I also think about food. Hub for both of those things.
Wow, we're 10th biggest city in the United States? I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, I grew up in San Jose, so I moved there when I was still in elementary school, and it's a very different place now. I think more people in Taiwan are more familiar with San Jose now, way, way, way more than it was in the past. So, growing up, I had a habit of not saying I was from San Jose because nobody ever knew where it was. So I would always have to say I'm from San Jose, and people go, "Where's that?" And I would always have to follow up. It's the city a little bit south of San Francisco. So I ended up just saying I'm from San Francisco because nobody knew where San Jose was. But now San Jose is just completely transformed. And then with the high-tech industry, the Silicon Valley growth since the 70s and then throughout the 80s, a lot of Taiwanese people were exposed to San Jose.
Yeah, and thinking about the transformation of a city, I sometimes think about the places that were really important to me when I was a kid, and then how those touch points are just very, very different.
Very different. Yeah.
So for you, are there particular places that you think about from your childhood that just are totally transformed now?
Oh, so many. Well, I don't recognize it anymore. Thank goodness there's GPS. Otherwise, that would be completely lost. When I was growing up, there wasn't much. There was just a lot of open land, suburb. So a lot of space. The house I used to live in, I would ride my bike about 5 minutes, and then the road would just stop. There wasn't anything else beyond that road. And it would be an open field. There was a cattle ranch there. And there's some horses. And I used to go over and I'd say hi to those people. And I'd love to ride, the horses. How much can I ride the horses for? $2. But you have to go and grab them yourself and then they'll show you. So it was just really down to earth. It was nothing fancy, but I missed a lot of that, right? And then some of the other things, it's a very nice location where there's mountains. San Jose is not directly by the sea, but it's pretty close. And then, so having access to the Bay Area, there's a lot of good seafood, fishing spots that I used to do a lot when I was a kid. I can tell you about some of the fishing spots that I used to go to. And then on the other side, where the mountains are, that's where the orchards were, the apricots farm and garlic. It was a huge thing in Gilroy. So south of San Jose, beyond that. So there's a very good blend and mix of all kinds of material you can work with when it comes to food and activities to do.
Yeah, I just love the picture that you're painting. So if you have a weekend where you and your family want to get outside, you want to eat some good food, where are you going? What are you doing? Are you fishing? Are you going to a restaurant? Are you just kind of being totally spontaneous?
Well, okay, so since I've became a father, and then we had a couple of occasions where we had time, so I took the kids back to San Jose. And one of the things that we do, and now it's become a tradition, so anytime we drive by that area, we would definitely do so is near Monterey. I would take the kids fishing. That's one of the fishing spots that I used to go to. If my memory served me right, there's a Captain Randy out there. So if you're in that area, look for Captain Randy. Randy will take you out, and we'll go on these fishing boats. And we would catch anything from canaries to canary cods to blue lingcods and all kinds of great, I mean, these are just really good eating fish, right? Because it's cold water. The currents come from the north. So in California, it can be 100 degrees out there. The water's still freezing. And the colder the water, the tastier the fish, because they accumulate all the fat in the meat. So the fish there tastes amazing. And it's the same bunch of people, same setup as when I was growing up. And I would take my kids out there, and there's still fish out there to be caught, and we'd catch those fish. We'd take it to the wharf. Some of the restaurants would cook it for us, or we had half of it filleted right on the spot and bring the fillets home. You know what's the best? I love this. The cods, you know, put some flour on it, fry it a little bit, and then you go and get some avocado, get some salsa. You make some fish tacos out of those things. It's out of this world, and I love it. And I've done that a good number of times with my kids. Now that they're older now. And that's become a tradition of ours.
Would you and your dad fish a lot too?
Yeah. So growing up, you know, I'm glad my dad was pretty outdoorsy. So we went there. We were first generation immigrants. So life was not fancy, but we made do. So he owned a restaurant in San Jose. He loved the outdoors. So the restaurant was shut down fairly early sometimes. I would call him after school. I don't know what, 3:30-ish. I would call my dad and say, "You done? Are you wrapping up?" He'd say, "Yeah, I'm almost done." So we'll meet you at the lake. So we would go and meet at some of these fishing spots that we would go to. So there's a couple of reservoirs in San Jose that we would go fish, that you can catch smallmouth, largemouth bass. You can catch crappies and bluegills out there. They're all great fish. And then another spot would be in San Mateo, and there's a 92 freeway, I believe. There's a bridge that goes across, and there's a fisherman's dock underneath it, kind of like a boardwalk, but it goes out. We'd go fishing there. There, on a good day, you'd run into some striper bass out there, kingfish. You know, kingfish is like almost gone extinct in Asia because we Asians love kingfish so much. In Mandarin, it's called huangyu, okay, yellowfish, but they're so tasty. And then when the season is right, well, we can catch stingrays. The stingrays are jumping out of the water there, so you can catch a lot of those. Those are a lot of fun. But the icing on top of the cake fishing in California is obviously known for its Dungeness crab on the West Coast, right? So whenever we go fishing along the coast, what we would normally do is we bring a couple of crab nets, and we would set out the nets while we're fishing. And when we're done fishing, we would bring the nets up. And majority, I always say 90% of the crabs that you would catch out there, they're Dungeness crabs. Have you had?
So I grew up in Maryland, and so some of the kind of fishing that you did at San Jose does not resonate, because I would just remember we'd go oceanside and I would fail to catch fish, which is why we would then go to the other side, Bayside, where then I could crab, and we would catch a ton of crabs. And I mean, now it's, you know, a touchstone in my memory of family is a family reunion where we would, you know, once a year, and just a huge crab boil.
Oh, yeah.
And right, it's about the ritual, because, you know, you're not getting food efficiently at all when you're picking crab. But it was just really important to the family and really delightful.
What kind of crabs are out there? Is it Dungeness? It's not Dungeness out there, right?
Blue crabs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, now I've traveled and I've lived in Asia for quite some time now. I know obviously the Japanese food culture and the Taiwanese food culture is very rich as well. And we eat a lot of crabs. But man, I tell you, I miss the Dungeness crabs.
Yeah.
I feel like a Dungeness crab is like designed by God or by nature. I mean, it's so tasty. And, you know, they're not very fast. They don't have the spikes on them like the king crabs. So they're very easy. And then the shells are soft, you know, barely there. So they're easy to peel. They're slow. They're chubby. And they just taste good. And you know, and you can literally eat one Dungeness crab and you're pretty filled. I mean, I'm a fairly big dude. In Asia, you've had a chance to try things like 大闸蟹, the Chinese type. My goodness, you have to eat, what, 10 of those to get some meat in you? You're suckling on the shells. I mean, a Dungeness crab, you can make a burger out of it. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, because I think the crabs in Maryland are more similar to the Asian crabs. And when I found out that Dungeness crabs existed, I was like, why are we not eating these? This seems a lot simpler.
Right? So you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, every fisherman's got a few stories. So one day we went. Normally, you know, we catch a few fish, and then by the time we end, we bring up the nets. We get a couple of crabs in there. That's like a bonus. But there's one time that we went, and, you know, we'd bring up the nets, and it felt like it was stuck. moving it this way, moving it that way, try to unsnag it. But it was definitely, not moving. So after a few attempts, we're like, okay, well, we might as well just yank it. And if we lose it, we lose it, just try our luck. So we started pulling it really hard and it budged. So we start bringing it up, but it was just heavy. So I thought maybe we caught some kelp or old Thai or something, right? And it's dark because most of the crabbing is done at night. So it got out of the water and we're on the boardwalk. So we're looking down and so we shined a flashlight on there and there's stuff moving in there. Long and behold, it was full of crabs. And normally you get 1 or 2 or 3 in there. And that day, for some reason, I don't know, was there like a crab march or of some sort? Were they protesting for something? I mean, there had to be like 40 crabs in there. And it was just packed. And the excitement, I remember it like it was yesterday. So if you like fishing, like me, if you're into crabbing, you know that feeling, and then you bring it up. And that's a catch that you would never forget for the rest of your life.
I mean, I will say it's a great story and does make me hungry a little bit. I think we have some food here that we can maybe try. I don't think it's going to quite be the taste and memories quite of crabs that sweet. But, I think we got some shrimp and we got some calamari here that hopefully can kind of resonate a bit with the San Jose seafood.
Awesome. Cool. All right.
Yeah. Do you want to dig in?
Sure. All right. So we're digging in. This is calamari. I'll do you want lemon?
Of course.
Okay. I'll spread some lemon on here.
Can't eat without a little bit of lemon.
Oh, you guys are really bringing back memories. This is calamari with lemon and is that jalapenos? We got some jalapenos in here.
Yeah, seems like it.
I'm so glad now that we can get some of the stuff in Taiwan. When I first moved out here, you can't get salsa. Yeah. You can't get jalapenos.
Jeez.
I think one of the first people that brought in jalapenos was Subway sandwiches.
Yeah.
And I would go into a Subway and I was like, can I buy some of those off of you guys? And the young kids that were working in the subways in Taiwan back in those days, I mean, they didn't know what it meant to me. They were just selling sandwiches. So they would just grab a Coke cup and then fill it up. They'd say, have it.
Yeah, I mean, and so you mentioned also that you're...
So I'm going to eat while we talk. Okay?
Yeah, me too.
Right,
me too. I'm digging in.
All right. No, that works.
I mean, I would say that one thing that's interesting to me is that the seafood culture in Taiwan is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the way that seafood is seasoned, very different. And so in Maryland, like Old Bay is basically a religion. It's like paprika, celery salt, a bunch of things like that. What's the go-to seasoning for seafood in San Jose?
That's interesting that you asked that. I love cooking myself. So I've thought about this question is we eat lobsters and we barely use any seasoning. The steaks that we cook, we use some butter, maybe some herbs. That's about it, right? We keep it light and that's it. But Asian food, why are they so colorful when it comes to spices? And, and I remember I used to really dislike the fact that some of the lu wei, which is, kind of like the seasoned, long simmered type of meat that's here. And people would do that with chicken feet and duck wings, right? Things like that. And I mean, like, there's hardly any meat on it. Give me a leg, give me a thigh, right? And I never really understood why until later on, I realized, okay, so there's 2 reasons to that. One, I think is you work with what you have. So I think definitely in America, it is a relatively new continent, relatively new state. There was much more resources than there were human beings in that place. So we had more meat than we can consume. So we only eat the big chunks or the tender parts. As opposed to in Asia, especially if you go in China, if you go into some of the deeper parts of it. I mean, there's more people than there are resources. So they had less choices to eat. They can't be that choosy. So anything with a little bit of meat, they would still have to savor it, right? You need to kind of suckle on it. So giving it a ton of flavor makes it better for suckling. So you're kind of chewing on it, you're kind of suckling on it. So, I tried doing that with something with meat on it. And when I did it with a chicken thigh, it wouldn't taste good because you don't want a huge chunk of meat when it's that spicy and colorful and tasty.
It's too much sometimes.
Yeah. So that's one part that I see is very different when it comes to food culture. For Taiwan, most of the seafood that comes in are extremely fresh. And the cooking here, it's a mixture of many different influences, some from the mainland, some from Japan, and definitely nowadays more from the West as well. But here in Taiwan, I think people enjoy something quick with a big stove. Yeah. So it's a lot of quick stir fry, a lot of that in Taiwan.
Yeah, I mean, geography, resources, it all drives changes in the food culture. I feel like the food in San Jose, I often think of like fish tacos, like a quick fry on them, maybe a slaw with like jalapenos, right? Avocado, what you said, which are not really things that you're going to get as much in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So, if you're cooking a dinner for your family where you're trying to bring some San Jose flavors to your family in Taiwan, like what's the go-to dish that you'll cook?
I still do fish taco at home now. So things are more available now, right? So in Taiwan, you get jalapeno, you can get avocados, or you can get salsas and whatnot. But in San Jose, the things that I just mentioned, those are some of the casual food, the calamari, the crab. There is a really nice restaurant if you guys are ever in the Bay Area. I believe it's in Millbrae, near the San Francisco airport. It's kind of like a warehouse. It's very casual. And you go in, and it's a lobster house. So you go there, and you can pick your lobster. You can pick it and take it home, or they make lobster sandwich. So you can have a lobster sandwich, a crab sandwich, or something like that. It's really good. So you pair that with some oysters, half shells, a dozen, half a dozen, you do that. Those are all great, and I think they're all really good casual food. One of the things that in San Francisco, if you go into the city, obviously one of the most popular tourist attraction is the Fisherman's Wharf.
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys are in Fisherman's Wharf, one of the main things you need to eat there is clam chowder in the bread bowl.
The bread bowl.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that is really good, and that's all over the Bay Area. So it's in San Francisco, Fisherman's Wharf. You go to Santa Cruz on the boardwalk. They have it there as well. These are all great casual food. There is a very tasty fried zucchini place on Fisherman's Wharf as well. That's one of my favorite places to go to. But on the flip side, as San Jose became more developed, and it is a wine country, so there are a lot of fine dining as well. I'm not sure if the pandemic has changed anything, but there was one restaurant that was one go-to restaurant that we would always do whenever there's something special, if it's a birthday or a prom. We would try to make a reservation there. It's called Scott's Seafood Bars and Grills. I believe that's in San Jose. That's one of those really nice restaurants when I was growing up. That's like, if you take a girl there, you're set. Yeah, so these are great places that I would recommend.
California, though, right, we're talking a lot about food, talk about the nature, but then we also have basically, the hub of technology in the United States. And it's this interesting, point of tension, right? That in a place where nature is so important, it's also where tech is so important. Part of it's because, we have different communities that are built around those things. Part of it is, I think there's ways that they kind of mutually reinforce each other in interesting ways. So for you, like, what role did the tech culture in San Jose play in kind of growing up and kind of where you've ended up?
Well, I was there right at the beginning of the whole tech industry. I believe started just prior to me getting there. That was like the late 70s and then throughout the 80s. So that's exactly when I was there. I was as a kid growing up. That was a part of everyday life. People were trying to build their own computers. I remember there used to be a few publications that were free. And the kids in San Jose, we didn't have internet back then. For fun, it was just riding our bikes, going fishing, and then grabbing some of these free publications that literally it talks about what's new. They would advertise things like motherboards. It went from the XT to the AT, the 286. Some kids would be building their computers. I was involved in some of that. But how did it affect me? I think it affected me in a bit of a weird way. I'm sort of like the black sheep. I would say 70, at least close to 60 or 70% of my friends while growing up in San Jose are probably all ended up directly or indirectly connected to tech.
Oh, wow.
I'm one of the very few that went a different route. I was on the radio since I was in high school. Been on the radio and TV for my entire life that I've been doing that. I've been one of those kids that kind of follow them around with some computer stuff that just never really interested me. So if it broke, I'll call my friend Steve and come, take a look at it for me. But I was at home rehearsing with the band. I was one of those kids. So now looking back, tech is great. It brought us all back together. I grew up in the same place. So from elementary school to middle school to high school, it was all the same bunch of friends. So we all hung out together. And then we kind of lost touch because I moved away. I moved to LA and then moved to Asia and started working out here. Finally, it was 20 years later. One day I was planning to go to the Bay Area. But finally, I got there and my kids went with me. So I drove them around and showed them where I used to live, where I used to fish, the school I went to. And I went to my high school. I went to Leland High School in San Jose, and I stood in front of the school and took a selfie. And I put it on Facebook, and I say, I'm back. Who's here? By that evening, messages started coming in. I'm here, and all these friends started to reach out, and we got reconnected like that on Facebook. And then the next day, we went out and we had dinner, and we met up on, what is that called? The Santana Road. That didn't exist when I was growing up there. That's like the most happening place in San Jose now. Found a restaurant, we sat down and ate, and then afterwards we grabbed a few drinks and we got a little buzzed, and it was really, really fun. And all of a sudden I just realized, I said, you know what? You guys know me probably better than anybody else in this world. This is the bunch. We grew up together. This is the first time we grabbed a drink together. Because the last time we met, we weren't legally able to drink yet. I left when I was 18, so we couldn't drink yet. So that was the first time ever drinking with my buddies. And it was a great experience. And everyone looked so different. Well, some of the guys got bigger. The hairiest kid is bald now, right?
Yeah.
It's the other way around. Yeah, so.
Yeah, we're all getting older. Don't remind me of that. A friend is visiting my hometown. They're always like, hey, where should I go? And the answer is, well, you should go wherever your 5 best friends are. It's like the particular bar or restaurant is a little bit more immaterial to just kind of like going to where like your community is. But, with that big caveat in mind, like if me and my wife are going to San Jose in a few months, where are you sending us?
Is this like a honeymoon kind of thing?
Sure.
With kids or without kids?
Wife, no kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so something nicer and something more romantic. One of the parts that I do love about the Bay Area is near Pebble Beach in Carmel.
Okay.
I think Carmel is one of those just below the radar because I don't think people talk about Carmel as much. And it's just 30-minute, 40-minute drive away from San Jose. Because San Jose now, it's busting. It's a huge city. Like you just mentioned, It's the 10th largest city. So it's no longer that quiet place that I grew up. It's happening, right? But Carmel kind of stayed the same. So I really enjoy going out to Carmel and just spending a weekend out there. There's some really nice restaurants out there. I don't know if you remember the book that we used to read on Cannery Row.
Yeah.
Remember that book? Yeah. So that's Carmel.
All right.
So you can go there, and then the buildings are still there. They're probably like clubs or restaurants now, but it's still quieter, much quieter than San Jose. So going out there, enjoying the beach and the drive out there, I believe in that area, it's all the big redwoods, right? In California. So you'll see these magnificent trees. I think you drive out, I don't know, is that the Highway 17 or something like that? And you go out there. It's just gorgeous. And then also, so if you're in that area, there's a place called the 17-Mile Drive. Have you heard of that place?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the 17-Mile Drive is near Pebble Beach. That's one of the most gorgeous places in California. It's a stretch of road and a community just about 17 miles. So it's called the 17-Mile Drive. I believe it's like a gated community where these extremely extravagant houses are located. And it's so gorgeous that it's a public tourist attraction. So people drive around in there. But within that gated community, there are public restaurants and golf courses. And the landscape there is just magnificent. It's different. On the mountainous side, you have the redwoods. But in there, you have these, I don't know what they're called, but some kind of pine that grows on these rocks right next to the ocean. So there are these amazing sites that you can go to within the 17-Mile Drive. I would recommend that route.
Yeah, I mean...
And then to the listeners out there that do have kids, on the way out there, there's a place that always brings back memories. We used to go when I was much younger. I've brought my kids there one time too. It's called the Mystery Spot. So Mystery Spot it's like this little hut in the redwood forest on the way out to the seaside. Their story is it's some kind of a gravity vortex spot that twisted everything around. So the house is kind of lopsided. The story behind it is that, no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, they cannot straighten up the house. And you go in and it'll disorient you. And you'll feel dizzy. It could be the vortex, right? So you go in, and it's a neat little place where you go. A ball will roll uphill in that little spot.
Amazing.
It's weird. It's neat. So especially if you have kids, take them there. I think it's quite entertaining to kids to go there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I will say, I feel like I've learned so much, both just about San Jose and some interesting connections between San Jose and kind of where I've grown up. before we wrap up, when you bring your kids there, is there a particular point that you emphasize for how kind of San Jose really impacted your life, or what you really remember and care about San Jose that you share with them?
Well, I think now to them, there's a different image of San Jose. The tech part of it is quite mesmerizing. So I've taken them to the Apple headquarters, their new building, and show them around there. The kids really love that. But when I take them out to some of the spots that I grew up in, I try to share the stories and the memories that I have with them. And because I care a lot about that connection and that bond within the family. I want them to feel that warmth there. And other than that, it's one thing that, as a person that loves to fish, I really appreciate, which is the nature of things have been preserved so well. So like one time we went and a couple of fish that was on the list when we set out with Randy is like, well, this year number seems to be a little low. So we're gonna, if we catch any of these types of fish, we're gonna throw them back. And to hear that from him, for me, it's something that I really appreciate. And I make it a point that my kids understand this, which is, this is why the place I used to fish still exist, and my kids can fish at the same spot. It's because we love the place that we live in, and when everybody do their part, things can stay nice.
I think that's a great idea to kind of let resonate there. So I'll say thanks so much for the time and chatting and sharing those stories, Dennis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You've been listening to the AIT podcast, co-produced by the American Institute in Taiwan, Ghost Island Media, and American Spaces. Please share and subscribe, and give us a follow on all our social media accounts. This episode is produced by me, Emily Waiwu. Teresa Yen is our production coordinator and editor. Our editing assistant is Gerald Williams. Engineering supervisor is Dino Lin. Graphics by Logan Dosher. Thanks to Chloe Ramon and Mikey Redding for assisting. See you next episode.